And hello once again, and today I'm going to be talking about my favourite decade for movies. Now, I've been buying a lot of movies, Blu-rays from charity shops recently, and they've been mainly in that 2000 onwards area. Can't really find a lot of the older classics like from the 80s and the 90s, but pretty much got all the good ones from the 80s and the 90s. Obviously the 70s was another great decade for movies, as well as the 60s, but I don't go no further on, or further back I should say, than the 60s, 50s, and back from that, pre-war. There was films that didn't interest me. I'm not interested in war films or interested in westerns and things like that, or these love films or these things like that. I just don't have no interest for them one bit. And like these those monster films, you know, like Godzilla and things like that. Don't really have no interest for them, to be honest with you. So I only start really from the 60s onwards, you know. There's nothing really interested me before that. As I just said, I don't want to keep waffling on about the same thing. Right, let's get into it. Let's start from the 60s. Obviously when the James Bond franchise started, which I'm a big fan of the James Bond films. Oh, excuse me, still got this little bit of a cough. Got them all on Blu-ray, every single one. Now I'm not going to say which my best, and I've done a separate video for that, or I will be. I should do a separate video, a movie chat, just for the James Bond films, because obviously I've seen every single one of them. But I might have to break that down into Sean Connery films, Roger Moore films, Pierce Brosnan, one before that, Timothy Dalton and Daniel Craig. Spoiler, Roger Moore was my favourite Bond. Yeah, Sean Connery was my second. I can't remember. I might have done a James Bond. Who was my favourite? I can't remember now. I've done so many fucking talking on the cameras about certain subjects, you know, film subjects. But this is my favourite decade. Right, let's get on. So you had 60s, you had a few good ones, you know. The Bond started, Italian Job was another good one. The 70s, obviously, with more of the Roger Moore Bonds. Obviously, that also went into the 80s. There was other great, you know, Star Wars. That's the start of a great franchise right there. Started in the 70s. Star Trek the motion picture, it wasn't the best Star Trek movie, was it? Well, not to me, it wasn't. There was others. There was a lot of other good movies from the 70s, like Roger Moore. Oh, Roger Moore. No, not Roger Moore. Fucking can't think of his name. Oh, he passed away. It was the American fucking smoking bandit guy. Burt Reynolds, that's it. I mean, that was the franchise that started in the 70s. There was a lot of good 70s, like car chasey sort of things. I was always a big fan of car chases when I was a kid. Just liked it. I don't know why. I just like car chases. And it was done properly. Not none of this CGI crap they have nowadays. No, car chases when it was done properly. With proper cars, proper stunt people driving the cars. And you had some spectacular stunts. So 70s, yeah, it was a great decade actually for movies. Then comes to the 80s. The 80s. Wow. 1980 all the way to 1989. There was just so fucking many films that were awesome. So many, and a lot of start of a franchise as well. I can't name every single film. I mean, 1980. there was good films, 1980, 81, 80, all the way, every single fucking year of the 80s, there was just something that was brilliant. That's why, to me, the 80s was the best decade of all time for movies, because there was so many of great films. Probably one of the best, RoboCop, Terminator, Ghostbusters. God, I could go on, but it's just, the problem is just thinking of all these awesome films. 80s Blues Brothers, 89 Batman, big, massive. That was the big film for 89. 80s started off great, and boy, did the 80s go off with a bang. Fucking so many films that come out in 1989 was amazing. Wow. So you had Ghostbusters 2, obviously Batman, Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade. I know there was a Star Trek, but that wasn't very good. But I know there was a few films that come out in 89, because that was to say, let's make the 80s go off with a fucking bang. And boy, did it go off with a bang. You know, brilliant. 80s movies, absolutely fucking fantastic. Personally, it wasn't my favourite decade, because that will always be the 90s, because of different reasons, because I was an adult in the 90s. 80s, I was still a kid, you know, was all at school throughout the 80s. So life was different being in the 80s to the 90s, because I left school in 1990. And, you know, but being an adult is completely different from being a kid, you know. So that's why 90s as a decade was better for me. But the 80s was still fucking fantastic. Being a kid, you know, it was a privilege to live through the 80s, all the way through the 80s, because I was born in the 70s. You know, absolutely fucking mega fucking for movies, the 80s. It is the best for me. It is the best. It always will be the best. At least probably people say, yeah, but you didn't have the internet. Who gives a fuck? What we didn't have, we didn't miss. We weren't even aware that I don't even think anyone was aware that the internet was coming in the 80s. It just come out of the blue in the 90s. I didn't even experience the internet until the 2000s, the millennium. Another thing we didn't experience was mobile phones. Only the mega rich had mobile phones in the 80s. So, no mobile phone, no internet. Anyway, we're here to talk about movies. I can go on. I do go off on a tangent, but that's just me. Yeah, there's no question about it. The 80s, to me, was the best decade by far, because every single year there was something brilliant on. Then comes the 90s. Well, there was a lot of Schwarzenegger things in the 80s. Stallone, Die Hard with Bruce Willis in the 80s. Oh, I could go on and on and on. Fuck it now. 1990. So we had RoboCop 2. Okay, it wasn't as good as the original. That was never going to be as good as the original. You know, the original was fucking fantastic. But it wasn't a bad sequel. People slated it, but I didn't think it was a bad film. I prefer to watch that over fucking RoboCop 3 and the remake. So Total Recall was another Schwarzenegger film. I'm sure there was others, but I just can't think. But then we get to 1991, and excuse me, and probably one of the biggest films of all time, of 1991, and probably now, Terminator 2: Judgment Day. Probably one of the best films of the 90s, 2000s. I'll get to the 2000s. Yeah, so one of the best films of the, and there was other True Lies. There was Eraser. You know, a lot of other Schwarzenegger films. But I don't know. I just thought it was just going a bit downhill from there. Not a patch on his 80s stuff, but as I said, Terminator 2 was fucking fantastic. First real film. They did with CGI, but I know there was other films they did with CGI, but it weren't as well known. But You know, Terminator 2 being a big film, so they used a little bit of CGI. Only with the T1000, well, I think was enough, because he did a lot of practical effects as well, which I'm a big fan of the practical effects. I'm not a huge fan of CGI, especially when they overdo it, like with movies nowadays, where it's just, it looks fake, because they can't get the fucking physics right. The physics look shit when it comes down to cars and the way, you know, certain things, it just doesn't look right. When it comes to space, yeah, that looks good, because I like what they did with Star Wars. Not a lot of people did, but I liked when they added the new effects in the space, you know, when they made it. I like it because they didn't ruin the film to me. Little bits and pieces here and there, yeah, they could have left alone, but with the special effects I thought they were good, because you still had the original actors, you know, didn't alter the film, and you know, they were masterpieces anyway. Star Wars was, well, the original three were, not so much about the others. So 90s, so yeah, it started off well. I don't know, there was some alright films, but yeah, I wouldn't say they were memorable until we get to the end. What do we have? And the question is, did the 90s go off with a bang, just like the 80s did? No. It was disappointing, to be honest with you, the way the 90s went to the millennium. What was there? You know, you thought Star Wars, The Phantom Menace, wow, return of a big franchise here. Weren't very good. It was alright, but nah, it weren't that good, to be honest with you. And then we had The Matrix. Whoa, now this was gonna fucking be a box office, weren't it? Something new, something fresh, nice special effects. Yeah, a lot of people liked it, but to be honest with you, I thought it was rather boring. I honestly thought The Matrix was quite boring. Probably people are going to fucking be scorned. Oh my god, how dare you say that's boring. Sorry, I didn't think much of The Matrix. It had great special effects. I even had one of those Nokia phones, you know, the 7110, you know, whatever it's called. It was completely a little bit different, but it was like the thing come down. I had one of those phones in the year 2000. Yeah, I honestly didn't think much of The Matrix. Sorry if it pisses you off, but oh fucking well. I can't think of any real other films. The 90s was a bit disappointing, to be honest with you. You think you'd go off with a bang, but to me it didn't really go off with nothing. It went off with a whimper. The 90s coming into the 2000s, you know, weren't like the 80s when it just exploded. Great films come out in the 80s, you know. 89 was, 90s was just oh right. It's a shame really. Shame really, because the 90s was a fucking fantastic decade, especially for music. Won't go into that because it's a movie topic, so not a music topic, so yeah. So into the 2000s, I'm going to say 2000 to now. Can't think of anything special really. It's just, there was some I think, but not many. Nothing really that actually sticks out to me. What do we have? Oh, we had the Daniel Craig James Bond films. Yeah, they weren't very good. Oh, you had that Pierce Brosnan. Yeah, that weren't very good either. Best Pierce Brosnan ones were in the 90s. Can't think of much. Nothing that's got that great replay value like you did with the 80s films, 70s films. Yeah, there was some, but it was okay at best. You know, I can't even. I just got loads. The thing is, when I go to the charity shops, you find all these 2000 films, 2000 2010, 2011 films, but it's probably because no one wants to fucking watch them. You get bored with them. That's why I'm getting for a fucking quid from Blu-ray. Cheaper than that even. Because they just don't have much replay value. Unlike the 80s films, the 70s films. They've got loads of replay value. But this is just me at the end of the day. This is what my thoughts are. Everyone's going to be different. You know, that's why I'll put your comments in the description. You know, well, not in the description, in the comment section. Fucking description, that's my area. But now, tell me what you think. What was your favourite decade for movies? You know, some of your favourite movies. But definitely, to me, favourite was the 80s. I would go to say second place, possibly the 70s, because there was more films in the 70s that I enjoyed than the 90s, even though the 90s had some amazing films. Third place, probably say the 90s. Fourth place, 60s, 2000s, whenever. You know, anything in the 2000s onwards now, they can all be together, because I can't really think of many from the year 2000 onwards that are really much cop. That's just me at the end of the day. It's just, everything's just CGI'd to bits these days, and just nothing really spectacular in the way of movies. Like when you had those 70s, 60s, 80s, people did stunts, which was spectacular stunts. I know nowadays CGI has probably got cheaper, so they just CGI it to bits, because it's probably cheaper to make. And it ruins it, to me. Ruins it. Yeah. 80s. Sorry. Well, I don't know what am I fucking apologising for. 80s to me was the best decade for movies. What's yours? Tell me in the comment section. Anyway, I'm going to end this now. Thank you so much for watching. Till next time, and goodbye.